Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for a wild ride through one of the most audacious financial cons in history. Picture this. It's the roaring 1920s. America is buzzing with post-war optimism, and a charming Italian immigrant named Charles Ponzi steps onto the scene, promising riches beyond your wildest dreams. 50% returns in just 45 days? Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, it was. But before we dive into the collapse that left thousands ruined, let's rewind to where it all began. Born Carlo Ponzi in 1882 in the quaint Italian town of Lugo, young Charles grew up hearing tales of his family's faded glory. They were once nobility, or so the stories went, but by his time, they were scraping by. As a teen, he dabbled as a postal worker, then headed to the University of Rome. University life. Cafes, opera, endless nights out. But Charles partied away his funds, dropping out broke after 4 years. Desperate for fortune, he set sail for America in 1903, arriving in Boston with a mere $2.50 in his pocket. "I landed with $2.50 in cash and $1 million in hopes," he later boasted to reporters. Those hopes, they'd fuel a scheme that would make him infamous. Life in the New World wasn't easy. Charles bounced from job to job, dishwasher, waiter, you name it. He learned English fast, but honesty? Not so much. Fired for short-changing customers, he headed north to Montreal in 1907. There, he landed a gig at Banco Zerossi, a bank run by a slick operator who paid sky-high interest by robbing Peter to pay Paul. Sound familiar? When the bank tanked and the owner fled, Charles forged a check for over $400. Boom! 3 years in a Canadian prison. But prison was his real education. He met shady characters, learned the art of the con. Released in 1911, he tried smuggling Italian immigrants into the U.S. Another bust, landing him 2 more years in Atlanta's federal pen. There, he rubbed elbows with mobsters like Ignazio the Wolf, Lupo, and even a financier who faked illness to beat the system. Charles emerged in 1914, sharper, hungrier. He wandered the South, married a sweet Italian-American girl named Rose Necco in 1918, and settled in Boston. For a while, he went straight, running a fruit stand, clerking. But straight paths don't lead to legends or infamy. Enter the spark, summer 1919. Charles gets a letter from Spain with an international reply coupon inside. These were like prepaid stamps. Buy one cheap in a war-torn country like Italy, where currencies had crashed, and redeem it for full U.S. postage value. Arbitrage goldmine. In theory, you could buy them for pennies abroad and cash in for dollars stateside, pocketing over 400% profit. Charles crunched the numbers. A single coupon cost 1 cent in Italy, but equaled 6 cents in stamps here. Multiply that by millions? Jackpot. But here's the twist. He never bought a single bulk load of those coupons. The global market was tiny, maybe 27,000 in circulation worldwide. No way it could support his grand vision. Instead, in December 1919, he borrowed $200 from friends to kick off the Securities Exchange Company. By January 1920, he opened shop at 27 School Street in Boston, dangling the bait. "Invest with me, and I'll give you 50% back in 45 days, or double your money in 90. Banks offered a measly 5% a year. Who could resist? Word spread like wildfire. First, 18 investors ponied up $1,800. Charles paid them on time, using cash from the next wave. February, 5,000 inches. March, 30,000. By May, a whopping $420,000 flooded in. He hired agents on commission, 10% kickback for every sucker they reeled in. Offices popped up across New England. Investors weren't just the elite. They were everyday folks, factory workers, immigrants chasing the American dream, even cops and priests. Charles lived large, bought a mansion in Lexington with a heated pool, drove fancy cars, showered Rose with jewels. He became a celebrity, strutting around Boston like a king. June 1920, $2.5 million poured in. July, $1 million a day. At his peak, he raked in $15 million overall. That's about $250 million in today's money, from 40,000 eager souls. He even snapped up a controlling stake in Hanover Trust Bank after depositing $3 million there. The press ate it up. On July 24th, the Boston Post ran a front-page story. Doubles money within 3 months. Investments skyrocketed to $250,000 a day. Charles flashed his wealth, hosting parties, charming the crowds. "I'm no ordinary banker," he'd say with a wink. But cracks were forming. Enter the skeptics. That same Boston Post, smelling something fishy, dug deeper. On July 26th, they questioned, "How does this work, really?" Financial wizard Clarence Barron, yes, the Barron's magazine guy, crunched the numbers publicly. To deliver on promises, Ponzi would need 160 million coupons. Reality? Only a fraction existed. Plus, shipping and handling? Impossible. Then, Ponzi's own publicity man, William McMasters, flipped. On August 2nd, he blasted in the Post. Ponzi's insolvent, owing at least 2 million, maybe 4.5 with interest. He's using new money to pay old debts. Panic hit. Investors stormed his office, demanding refunds. Charles stayed cool, paying out 2 million in 3 days from fresh deposits, sipping coffee, chatting up the crowd. But the walls closed in. August 9th, state officials seized Hanover Trust. Ponzi's account was overdrawn by 3 million. August 11th, the Post dropped the bomb, his Canadian forgery rap. Charles Ponzi was exposed as an ex-con. He surrendered to feds the next day, grinning for cameras. An audit revealed the truth. He was 7 million in the hole. The scheme? A house of cards, built on hype and hope. The fallout was brutal. Thousands lost life savings, homes, retirements, dreams shattered. Charles faced 86 federal counts of mail fraud. Why mail? He used the Post to send promotional notes and receipts. He pled guilty, got 5 years, served 3.5 from 1920 to 1924. But Massachusetts wasn't done. They hit him with larceny charges, 12 to 14 years. He appealed, skipped bail, fled to Florida under aliases like Charles Borelli. There, he peddled swampland as prime real estate in the Charpin scheme. Get it, Charles Ponzi? Busted again, more prison time. Finally, in 1934, deported to Italy. He worked for Mussolini's airline, then fled to Brazil during World War II. Life soured. Lost an eye to infection, paralyzed arm, strokes. He died penniless in a Rio charity hospital on January 18, 1949, at 66. His last words? "I guess the only thing left is my name." And oh, what a name. Ponzi scheme entered the lexicon, defining any fraud where new investors fund old ones' payouts. No real profits, just illusion. From Bernie Madoff's billions to crypto scams today, echoes of Charles linger. He didn't invent it. Schemes like this predated him, but he perfected the art of the big sell. So, what can we learn from this tale of greed and glamour? Question the too good to be true. Dig beneath the hype. And remember, in finance, if it sounds like magic, it's probably smoke and mirrors. Thanks for joining this.